I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And you know what's interesting is I was watching a gentleman last night. God, I can't think of the name of his channel. I'll try to remember it by the end, so if you want to go check him out, you can. But I noticed on the thumbnail, came up in my feed, it says he's going to expose Jay Embry. He was going to expose Pavarotti. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this should be interesting. And I started listening to him, and I went, whoa, this is how I'm going to get exposed, because I say over and over that the crime actually happened, huh? So I don't know if he was really being serious, but if he was, well, I mean, I would hate to think that this crime really didn't happen and I've just wasted, 2.5 years of my life, on this thing. But one of the things that he did bring up was the way he was exposing me. He said, well, he's never talked about the witsec program. Well, actually, I have gone into probably more detail than anybody ever wanted somebody to go into on the witsec program, actually. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but I put in his comments, why don't you go watch my episode on the witsec program and then retract your statements. And I was really just kind of being funny there as well. But then I went back and I watched my video on the witsec program, and I forgot that video was the video of all the videos I've ever done. That one I actually put the most work into in actually creating a video. Literally, I did, because I took a very hard to find paper from the FBI on the actual witsec program. And I took the exact words out of the witsec program that the FBI implements, and I took those words and I created a video using those words exactly. And then I added some slides and some pictures to try to tell the story, because at one time, and I still believe it to this day, I believe that a lot of the things that we see happening around the King Road residence is because those young ladies were put in that King Road residence. Maybe not all of them, but definitely some of them were put there, I believe, as part of what's called alternative measures, and that's a segment of a witsec program. And I believe that they were being monitored by law enforcement in a protection detail, but it wasn't a proper protection detail. I believe that they were doing what's called alternative measures. They were just basically making the families feel a little bit more comfortable by implementing some additional steps to kind of keep an eye on them, not thinking that the risk was really that high. Turns out the risk was very high. And when you listen to the words of the witsec program, and it goes through and explains all these things, like, for example, the things that I heard a lot of were, well, at safe houses, no, that's everybody would know that. That's where, like women's groups go, or battered women's shelters, stuff like that. Well, it actually explains in the witsec program how those types of places are not optimal and are basically useless in a witsec program. But it tells you everything. So what I want to do is I'm going to re-release that video. It's only about 7 or 8 minutes, but it was 7 or 8 minutes of some extreme effort on Pav's part to try to explain this situation the best way that I could. And I believe everything that I said then still holds true to this day. And you'll see, if you pay close attention, how everything lines up, so perfectly with the case that we're viewing today. So without further ado, now this isn't Pav narrating. I had to create this video using those words. So I used some AI voiceovers, and but it's very, very educational on the witsec program, I assure you. So here we go.
The ability of a witness to give testimony in a judicial setting or to cooperate with law enforcement investigations without fear of intimidation or reprisal is essential to maintaining the rule of law. Increasingly, local, state, and federal agencies are enacting legislation or adopting policies to protect witnesses whose cooperation with law enforcement authorities or testimony in a court of law would endanger their lives or those of their families. Protection may be as simple as providing a police escort to the courtroom, offering temporary residence in a safe house, or using modern communications technology, such as video conferencing, for testimony. There are other cases, though, where cooperation by a witness is critical to successful prosecution, but the reach and strength of the threatening criminal group is so powerful that extraordinary measures are required to ensure the witness's safety. Witness Protection Authority, a government, police, prosecutorial, or judicial authority overseeing and coordinating implementation of the Witness Protection Program and making decisions on such matters as admittance, duration of protection, measures to be applied, operational policies, and procedures. A person who has taken part in an offense connected with a criminal organization possesses important knowledge about the organization's structure, method of operation, activities, and links with other local or foreign groups. These individuals are known by a variety of names, including cooperating witnesses, witness collaborators, justice collaborators, and state witnesses. There is no moral element involved in their motivation to cooperate. Many of them cooperate with the expectation of receiving immunity, or at least a reduced prison sentence and physical protection for themselves and their families. They are among the main participants in witness protection programs. The combination of lenience in, or even immunity from, prosecution with witness protection is considered a powerful tool in the successful prosecution of organized crime. However, the practice can raise ethical issues as it may be perceived as rewarding criminals with impunity for their crimes. To address those concerns, a growing number of legal systems provide that the benefit to collaborators is not complete immunity for their involvement in criminal activities, but rather a sentence reduction that may be granted only at the end of their full cooperation in the trial process. Legislation and policy clearly separate admission to a witness protection program from any benefits that participants may be granted by the prosecution or court with respect to past criminal behavior, and they provide that justice collaborators must serve some prison time for their crimes. Within the penitentiary system, special measures are required to protect the life of justice collaborators. A special branch of the prison administration usually administers them in coordination with the protection unit. They include A. Separation from the general prison population, B. Use of a different name for the prisoner witness, C. Special transportation arrangements for in-court testimony, D. Isolation in separate detention units at the prison or even in special prisons. Sometimes prisoner witnesses commit new crimes after their release from prison and admission to the program and are subsequently terminated from witness protection. To ensure that their return to prison would not endanger their lives because of their previous cooperation, the prison administration may place them in an inmate monitoring program and house them separately from other prisoners who are known to pose a danger to them. Following their release from prison, justice collaborators may be resettled to a new, secret location under a different identity if the threat to their life persists and other conditions are also fulfilled. Family members of justice collaborators, however, may be admitted to the program while the witness is still in custody. Schemes have been developed that are distinct from witness protection programs, but are still based on the principle of making it more difficult to trace at-risk and intimidated witnesses and their families. Those schemes apply to cases that do not warrant the permanent relocation and change of identity of the witness. They may be ordered in the pre-trial or trial phase and provide either for a series of physical security measures implemented by the regular police or for evidentiary rules enacted by the courts. Such schemes are often referred to as alternative measures to witness protection programs. Target hardening. Security measures should be considered in all instances where witnesses genuinely believe that there is an imminent threat or danger against their lives or their families' lives as a result of their involvement in assisting the police in investigating a criminal case. In the majority of cases, witnesses do not face a life-threatening situation, Instead, they suffer verbal threats, intimidation, harassment, assault, property damage, or simply fear of reprisal as a result of their cooperation with the police. To provide support and security to such witnesses, the police may put a security program in place. The program may be established either by law or as a policy. It would generally provide for a series of enhanced police measures to discourage criminals wanting to harm the witness. The measures taken would be proportional to the threat and of limited duration. They could include A. Temporary change of residence to a relative's house or a nearby town. B. Close protection, regular patrolling around the witness or their family's house, escort to and from the court, and provision of emergency contacts. C. Arrangement with the telephone company to change the witness's telephone number or assign him or her an unlisted telephone number. D. Monitoring of mail and telephone calls. E. Installation of security devices in the witness's home, such as security doors, alarms, or fencing. F. Mobile telephones with emergency numbers. G. Use of discrete premises to interview and brief the witness. The arrangement of temporary accommodation in safe houses for victim witnesses is among the measures widely used. In some cases, the accommodation is located in specifically designated housing units where witnesses can recover and where access is allowed only to support groups, such as non-governmental organizations, social workers, and medical staff. Such designated units for the protection of witnesses under threat may be of limited usefulness, since they are in locations known to the community and easily disclosed. For protection purposes, a safe house may not always be a static point, in other words, in a designated location, but any location not generally known as the usual residence of the individual under protection, where the police can monitor and control all access and communication. It can be as simple as an apartment or hotel room.
So I believe, and I've always believed, when you look at just the basic facts of this case and everything that was going on with Maddie, Xana, and their parents, I've always believed those two to be the targets in this incident. A lot of people get mad at me when I say that. Now, I've also, dove in really hard on the possibilities that Kaylee was also a target. And I've gone into a lot of detail about how if that was the case, then you would have to bring Dylan in. And it's not that I've stopped thinking that way. It's just as we get closer to the trial, and I get people in my comments all the time. For example, I had Jeff H. was in the comments yesterday, and he was saying, I was trying to listen to it, but you were too biased about the fact that, when the girls, the grand jury said they were on the bottom floor and you said that was a lie, that they were outside, you could assume the bottom floor was outside. Well, I disagree with him. I believe if it says they're on the bottom floor of the house, then that would definitely indicate they were inside. And when you find out that they weren't inside, they were actually outside when the witnesses got there or the other people got there to, inspect the house, call 911, then that's two different things. But as far as being biased, there is so much media coverage. One thing I know for a certain is when you look at the evidence in this case, the evidence clears Kohberger. It actually does. There's no way you cannot put Kohberger there based on the state's theory and the state's evidence, because the state's theory and evidence doesn't match up to reality. So if their evidence doesn't match up to reality, then you can't convict the guy. The guy, in my opinion, if the evidence lies, is innocent. And there is about 50 mainstream morons, a bunch of minions out there that spin every aspect of this case in the most biased way you can possibly imagine against Brian Kohberger, going in right up into his trial, right up into a Prime Video series that's going to paint him as a psycho Ted Bundy, to a book that's going to come out right before the trial if the trial goes on schedule, and all kinds of other things that are meant to paint him in that picture. And basically poison the jury pool before trial. So if I seem like I'm a little bit biased in the way that I report things on this case, well, I probably am, because if there is so many entities and minions and morons out there painting everything the other way in a totally biased way, if there's not a few people out there that can combat that the other way and keep at least a few people's minds open, then what's the whole point of all this? When this thing goes into trial, it's supposed to be a fair trial for a guy based on the evidence in the trial. There's nothing out there in the media landscape or the social media landscape that is anywhere near fair. So yeah, I will report this thing in a little bit of a biased way because I have literally proven the state's evidence to be false. So why wouldn't I? I mean, this guy needs a fair trial. If they were to pull out some kind of magic evidence in trial that proves that he was guilty, so be it. I don't highly doubt that that's going to happen. In fact, I know it's not going to happen because it would have been leaked at this point. And the things that have been leaked at this point are the most ridiculous things I've ever heard of in my life. The situation around the roommates. Now we finally learn who the real DoorDash driver is. That creates even more doubt in anything. If you look at the situation around her, they have no evidence of Brian Koberger ever being at the scene of that crime. The vehicles that you see passing around, there's no way that that's his vehicle. There's no way. And I believe that there's going to be more evidence that's going to come to light that's going to prove that it's not him. And when you look at all of that and you look at the entire landscape around this thing, well, there needs to be some words being said in a biased way that goes against the biased way that everybody else out there is saying those words. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms, and until next time, Pavarotti is out.
Fly away. It's the first time of today.